Good afternoon from sacred space at Titania's realm, the realm where the fairy abide, and everything's sweet and kind and noble and full of integrity and honour and human decency and morality, and sometimes it tweaks in my twerk that I can't get what I want, but c'est la vie, babies. Anyway, I've had a beautiful day. It's been very hot. Arati came to clean. She left at midday. And I was planning to go out and buy some more fruit for the birdie boys and some fruit and veg, I suppose. Corn and maybe watermelon. I'm thinking a actual bulk coconut, one that I don't have to struggle to fight with, although they were yummy, having very fresh coconut straight off the tree. But I think I might buy one because Kermie loves coconut. Oh, does he love it? He holds on to it like it's the most precious thing, you know. So I might buy him it's actually for him, a coconut. I mean, I'll eat some of it too. And I'm thinking some kind of berries or maybe blueberries might be nice. Something different that the birds haven't had before since I've had them. And what else would you like, my boys? I know you'd like coconut. Look at little boys sitting there. I've just brought them in. They've been out in the garden all day, haven't you, little boy? Fun in the hot sun. I thought, oh well, they've had all day out, and I spritzed them with some water. They didn't like being spritzed, but they'll get used to it. It's just an initial shock. You want a bit of a spritz? This is my Mama T. I want to listen to you read stories. From the fairy realms to the fairy people on planet Earth, the interdimensional entities that come and listen to your YouTube. I still haven't got stuck into polishing the hematite. I was planning to do it today, but I decided I polished all my silver necklace up with the white polish, and I only did yesterday this one with the rouge, and I noticed it does bring it up a lot better. So I got stuck in today and I polished them all with rouge. So they've had 2 polishings. It was a lot of work. I only finished that not that long ago, and but I sat out in the garden doing it with my trusty Dremel and my polishing mops and that. I've just ordered a few more because the ones I've got aren't all that good, I've discovered. I need one of those big, polishing buffing machines that professional jewellers have, but I think they start at about $1,000, so I'll be needing one of those for a very long time, and tell them you're dreaming. But it would make life quicker if I could just do it by machine, but then the risk is of them flying out of your hands and breaking, getting lost somewhere. So swings and roundabouts, my darlings. I'll just have to do things manually and sit in the garden and listen to YouTube videos. In this locket that actually I inherited from my mother, it's one of the few very sentimental pieces that I inherited because most of her very valuable jewellery was stolen by that other family, or possibly sold for, my mother's former husband's gambling habits. Could be either way. The family might actually be innocent of eradicating all her most precious jewellery, but we can't be sure, can we? And they were bastards, so I tend to think they did thieve it. But anyway, I inherited this locket and I've polished it up today. And inside I've got fur from my Beauregard from when he passed away 2 years ago. I took a little snip from his tail. So I'm thinking about, in the next few days, finally, what I'll do is I've got some resin here, and I'll carefully braid it, and I'll just turn it into a little, like I'll put it in resin, like a little blob of resin, make a little medallion, hopefully small enough to fit back inside here and keep him that way, rather than bits of loose stray hair loose stray hairs were popping out while I was cleaning it, and oh, honestly, look, my little Bobo, oh, I love you, my darling. Oh, there's a bit of, oh, it's a little bit wet and necky, isn't it? There's a bit of my daughter's hair and Jasmine's hair, Jasmine and Crystal's hair. I used to have a lock of my hair, but I don't know what happened to that. But these are what's all I got left of my babies from when they were actual babies. I mean, they're still alive. Baruch Hashem, they're still alive. But dead to me because they abandoned me and rejected me. So it's a kind of a death too. But at least they're living. They're living zombie children, not, I'm not grieving like many people are, the death of their actual children. At least I know that although they don't communicate with me and they're not present with me in my life, I'm just going to put that out to dry because I really do want to turn that into, is that all Beauregard or some of that Socks and Sophie, because I have snippets of them too. No, that's all Beauregard. It's black and white on this pale. Well, I can do something nice with that, but I've got to dry it out. It all got wet because I rinsed off the rouge and kind of didn't care too much that there was very precious remains of my little doggy in there and my daughter's. Maybe I'll weave that in with the dog. Put that in the resin too. Maybe, why not? I love them. I love my dog. They could stay together for eternity. It's kind of symbolic. Doggesses that abandoned their mama too. No, I think I'll put them in their own little piece of resin that way. Keep them separated so they don't fight, energetically with each other or with me. I don't want to be fought with. I want to live a life of happiness, bliss, peace in the Zen zone, in my garden of sacred space and joy and delight. So on that note, I'm wearing my rhinoceros earrings that I made from a wonderful African necklace carved by people in Africa. So I'm very happy about that. And I've got the necklace on, I've got my birdie boys behind me. Are you eating sunflower seeds, little Bo? They're not yours, they're for Kermie. You're not supposed to eat so many of those because they're too fattening. Do I have to take it away from you? Oh, you are a good boy. You are a good, you're eating your sunflower seeds. You're happy boy. Look, honestly, he's a very happy birdie now. He's no longer depressed like he was for the first month and a half that he was living here. He's having bigger cages and feeling empowered for this power of good. Freedom, people. Freedom to the people and freedom to the birdies, am I right? Not complete freedom because they're cage birds and they die out in the wild, but enough freedom that they can have a good quality of life. I think little Bo really likes being outside in his outside cage now. He was sitting there watching me, polishing up the necklace and looking at me with great curiosity. And we didn't have a lot of interaction then because I was busy and distracted, wasn't I, boys? Mama's always busy and distracted. Yes. Beauregard had to get used to that too. It was a bit of a shock. First few years that he was with me, he had my complete and absolutely undivided attention, and then I got obsessed with tucking up silversmithing in 2021, and that's when it kind of got less attention, but still we had a happy life together, Bo and I. He was a good dog, and it's just a tragedy that he died of a splenal mass, and well, I blame it. I blame it on the flea and tick prevention causing that. I won't say the name because they can sue you, but they are bastards and they've killed many, many, many dogs across the world. Starts with B, if it gives you a bit of a clue. And what do? You don't want your animals suffering from fleas and ticks or dying of paralysis ticks, so you poison them out of their bloody, literally right out of their bodies. It's horrific. Anyway, I'm still grieving, Hungry can tell. Flights of rage and distress, but that company has a lot to answer for. It's a well-known fact that they've killed many animals. Many, thousands, millions across the world. And people still buy it. And it's still on the front counters of vets. They're all complicit like they were with the COVID fucking vaccination program. Poisoning us. Oh well, I'm about to be even more poisoned, don't I, with botulism. I said to my psychiatrist, I said, they'll get me in the end. They've got me now. Got me where they want me. Poison, poison, more poison. But at least I avoided, some of the poisoning. That was quite a fait accompli given how much pressure was put on the population. But, I'm a bit sick of being up every night peeing, so maybe this poison might be restorative poisoning and it doesn't kill me at all. Either have zero fat like most medications have on me, or it'll fix the problem once and for all. Blessed be the Holy One, the true judge, which is what you say when someone's died. Baruch Dayan Emet. So you can see that I expect that it'll be just one more fucking thing that I may not survive. So on that note, let us be happy and rejoice in the Titania's realm, where I shall hopefully be allowed to return to at some stage when I transition this body, in the eternal summer lands, where there is only ever love and non-judgment and kindness and respect and honour and sweetness, and no poisons. No need to ingest anything either, so no food or nice yummy things to eat or drink, which I think you can manifest it by thought and imagine it, but it's not quite the same as having a physical body chomping down on something yummy, like milk chocolate sultanas. So, anyway, but in the eternal summerland, where souls recognise each other by light and don't necessarily take on a form that represents physicality, and I think I'm looking forward to that. Let's hope so. Let's hope it's lovely and I don't end up in another hellscape. I don't know where that raisin went. What's the problem? The raisins on the floor are not good because birdies might accidentally eat it. They can eat the raisin, but not the chocolate. Oh well, it'll turn up. I'm kind of rattled and rolled. It's probably under my, did it go under my LPG tank? No. That's odd, isn't it? How things fall on the floor and roll away and just disappear. Like, has to be there because science says it has to be there. I'm very amused about my cleaning lady Rati because I'm always going on about the fucking scientists and how they've damaged us and how they've destroyed our planet with their narrow, rationalist, materialist, greedy, corrupt views. And then not today, but last week she told me she's actually a geologist by profession. Cleaning my house, a geologist, can you believe that? I just looked at her and I said to her, well, you've got to weave magic in with science, and some things are scientific and I don't necessarily agree with it. And then on the other hand, when you're spiritual and magical, you can get a little bit too lost in the magical world and get a bit ungrounded, and you need the swift kick up the arse that science can give you, like botulism in your fanny. Anyway, here I've been going on about stones, and she would have known more about these stones than even I do, being a geologist. She would have just been quietly cleaning, thinking, this woman's actually a bit of an idiot, which I am, because I have no idea. She took some interest some months ago in what I was doing with my silversmithing, and I wondered about that actually. But then, as a geologist, she would know even what silver ore looks like and how it comes out of the ground, and she'd be quite knowledgeable about all of that. So I was trying to teach her actually, and I can't remember what I was doing at the time. I was trying to explain it to her because I thought, she might like to take it up as a hobby too, in her own spare time and her own home life. So, but I thought about it today. I thought, you see, she loves me though, righty. She thinks I'm cool, I rave on all my mad stories about my life that aren't mad but actually real and experiential and awful beyond belief. Some of them. She just nods and quietly takes it all on. So she's a devout Muslim, so she's religious and spiritual and scientist, so she's the perfect blend of how a person should be. She's got all aspects of, consciousness all blended together, and she's a lovely soul. And she walked in this morning. I said I was having trouble catching little Bo because I wanted to put him out in the garden. I'd already taken Kermie out, but Bo was flying everywhere, giving me a hell of a time. Weren't you, little Bo? He's a bit tired now. And I said, you watch. I said, just because you're here and he loves you, he'll make out he's a good boy and I'll catch him. So I chased him around a little bit more. I said he's got to get tired and give up. And then after a few more, I think about 5 or 10 more minutes, he just sat there and I caught him, gently put him outside, and she laughed. I said, I told you, I said, his show's off for you, Rati. If it was just me on my own here, I would have been still at it for another half hour, trying to catch a little blighter. You little blighter, aren't you, little baby boy? What are you both doing? Look at this. They're sitting on Kermie's cage. Can you see it? Kermie's got his back to Bo, and Bo's sitting on the perch. Then they're back to back. Kermie's in the entrance to the cage, but I've got the top open, so if Bo wanted to, he can just fly out through the top. They've got some kind of weird Australian standoff on. But anyway, they're birds and they have their own consciousness and their own ways of being, and I'll let them do what they want to do. That's why they're having flying time. And I'll carry on with our wonderful story, The Silmarillion. We're up to chapter 7, titled Of the Silmarils and the Unrest of the Noldor. Because of my accent, some of you might not understand what I'm actually saying. Silmarils. So we're about to learn about the Silmarils at long last, which is the title of this story. Right. Just tidying myself up. Right. Of the Silmarils and the unrest of the Noldor. In that time were made those things that afterwards were most renowned of all the works of the elves. For Fëanor, being come to his full might, was filled with a new thought, or it may be that some shadow of foreknowledge came to him of the doom that drew near, and he pondered how the light of the trees, the glory of the blessed realm, might be preserved imperishable. Then he began a long and secret labour, and he summoned all his lore, and his power, and his subtle skill, and at the end of all, he made the Silmarils. As three great jewels they were in form, but not until the end, when Fëanor shall return, who perished ere the sun was made, and sits now in the halls of awaiting, and comes no more among his kin. Not until the sun passes and the moon falls shall it be known of what substance they were made. Like the crystal of diamonds it appeared, and yet more strong than adamant, so that no violence could mar it or break it within the kingdom of Arda. What you doing, little boy? Yet that crystal was to the Silmarils but as is the body to the children of Ilúvatar, the house of its inner fire that is within it and yet in all parts of it, and is its life. Gives a whole new meaning to shine bright like a diamond, doesn't it? Oh, Kookaburra is here. What are you eating? Okay, my boy. Cookie's here. You just missed out on seeing them, boys. Right, now where were we? And the inner fire of the Silmarils Fëanor made of the blended light of the trees of Valinor, which lives in them yet, though the trees have long withered and shone no more. Therefore, even in the darkness of the deepest treasury, the Silmarils of their own radiance shone like the stars of Varda, and yet, as were they indeed living things, they rejoiced in light and received it and gave it back in hues more marvellous than before. All who dwelt in Aman were filled with wonder and delight at the work of Fëanor, and Varda hallowed the Silmarils, so that thereafter no mortal flesh, nor hands unclean, nor anything of evil will might touch them. But it was scorched and withered, and Mandos foretold that the fates of Arda, earth, sea, and air, lay locked within them. The heart of Fëanor was fast bound to these things that he himself had made. Then Melkor lusted for the Silmarils, and the very memory of their radiance was a gnawing fire in his heart. From that time forth, inflamed by this desire, he sought ever more eagerly how he should destroy Fëanor and end the friendship of the Valar and the Elves. But he dissembled his purposes with cunning, and nothing of his malice could yet be seen in the semblance that he wore. Long was he at work, and slow at first and barren was his labour. But he that sows lies in the end. But he that sows lies in the end shall not lack of a harvest, and soon he may rest from toil, indeed, while others reap and sow in his stead. Ever Melchior found some ears that would heed him, and some tongues that would enlarge what they had heard. And his lies passed from friend to friend, as secrets of which the knowledge proves the teller wise. Bitterly did the Noldor atone for the folly of their open ears in the days that followed after. When he saw that many leaned towards him, Melchior would often walk among them, and amid his fair words others were woven, so subtly that many who heard them believed in recollection that they arose from their own thought. Visions he would conjure in their hearts of the mighty realms that they could have ruled at their own will, in power and freedom in the East. And then whispers went abroad that the Valar had brought the Eldar to Aman because of their jealousy. Are you ringing the bell? Yeah, busy boy. Yes, you are. Because of their jealousy, fearing that the beauty of the Quendi and the Maker's power that Ilúvatar had bequeathed to them would grow too great for the Valar to govern, as the elves waxed and spread over the wide lands of the world. Nice cold water on a hot day. Lovely. Lovely little birdie boys. It's a bit cooler in here now. It was very hot in here this morning. Much, much hotter. What are you doing? Oh, the door's shut. Okay, well that's a problem. Let me fix that for you. Good boy. Now you can go in. Yes, you can go in. I didn't realise the door was shut. Thank you for telling me. Because if you don't tell me, I wouldn't have noticed, would I? Silly Mama T. Right. Yes, it's all fixed up for you now. Everything's for you boys. Everything, everything, everything. Oh, well. In those days, moreover, though the Valar knew indeed of the coming of men that were to be, the elves as yet knew naught of it, for Manwë had not revealed it to them. But Melkor spoke to them in secret of mortal men, seeing how the silence of the Valar might be twisted to evil. Little he knew yet concerning men, for engrossed with his own thought in the music, he had paid small heed to the third theme of Ilúvatar. But now the whisper went among the elves that Manwë held them captive, so that men might come and supplant them in the kingdoms of Middle-earth. For the Valar saw that they might more easily sway this short-lived and weaker race defrauding the elves of the inheritance of the Iluvatar. Small truth was there in this, and little have the Valar ever prevailed to sway the wills of men. But many of the Noldor believed or half believed the evil words. Thus, ere the Valar were aware, the peace of Valinor was poisoned. The Noldor began to murmur against them, and many became filled with pride, forgetting how much of what they had and knew, came to them in gift from the Valar. Fiercest burned the new flame of desire for freedom and wider realms in the eager heart of Fëanor, and Melkor laughed in his secrecy, for to that mark his lies had been addressed, hating Fëanor above all, and lusting ever for the Silmarils. Little Bo's playing with that toy that I actually bought for Kermie, but it doesn't matter who plays with it. It's good to see it being played with. Kermie's going to probably get jealous now. Aren't you, Kermie? Are you a jealous birdie? No? You're a happy birdie. Delightful. But these he had not suffered to approach, the Silmarils, for though at great feasts Fëanor would wear them, blazing on his brow, at other times they were guarded close, locked in the deep chambers of his hoard in Tirion. For Fëanor began to love the Silmarils with a greedy love, and grudged the sight of them to all, save to his father and his 7 sons. He seldom remembered now that the light within them was not his own. High princes were Fëanor and Fingolfin, the elder sons of Finwë, honoured by all in Aman, but now they grew proud and jealous, each of his rights and his possessions. Then Melkor set new lies abroad in Eldamar, and whispers came to Fëanor that Fingolfin and his sons were plotting to usurp the leadership of Finwë and of the elder line of Fëanor, and to supplant them by the leave of the Valar, for the Valar were ill-pleased that the Silmarils lay in Tirion and were not committed to their keeping. But to Fingolfin and Finarfin it was said, beware, small love has the proud son of Miriel ever had for the children of Indus. Now he has become great, and he has his father in his hand. It will not be long before he drives you forth from Tuna. And when Melkor saw that these lies were smouldering, and that pride and anger were awake among the Noldor, he spoke to them concerning weapons, and in that time the Noldor began the smithying of swords and axes and spears. Shields also they made, displaying the tokens of many houses and kindreds that vied one with another, and these only they wore abroad, and of other weapons they did not speak, for each believed that he alone had received the warning. And Fëanor made a secret forge, of which not even Melkor was aware, and there he tempered fell swords for himself and for his sons, and made tall helms with plumes of red. Bitterly did Martan rue the day when he taught to the husband of Nedanel all the lore of metalwork that he had learned of Auli. Thus with lies and evil whisperings and false counsel Melkor kindled the hearts of the Noldor to strife, and of their quarrels came at length the end of the high days of Valinor and the evening of its ancient glory. For Fëanor now began openly to speak words of rebellion against the Valar, crying aloud that he would depart from Valinor back to the world without, and would deliver the Noldor from thraldom if they would follow him. Then there was great unrest in Tirion, and Finwë was troubled, and he summoned all his lords to council. But Fingolfin hastened to his halls and stood before him, saying, King and father, wilt thou not restrain the pride of our brother, Curul Finwë, who is called the Spirit of Fire, all too truly? By what right does he speak for all our people, as if he were king? Thou it was who long ago spoke before the Quendi, bidding them accept the summons of the Valar to Aman. Thou it was that led the Noldor upon the long road through the perils of Middle-earth to the light of Eldamar. If thou dost not now repent of it, 2 sons at least thou hast to honour thy words. But even as Fingolfin spoke, Fëanor strode into the chamber, and he was fully armed, his high helm upon his head, and at his side a mighty sword. So it is even as I guessed, he said. My half-brother would be before me with my father in this as in all other matters. Then turning upon Fingolfin, he drew his sword, crying, Get thee gone, and take thy due place. Fingolfin bowed before Finwë, and without word or glance to Fëanor, he went from the chamber. But Fëanor followed him, and at the door of the king's house he stayed him, and the point of his bright sword he set against Fingolfin's breast. Chest and breast, which is best? Breast is best. See, Half-brother, he said, this is sharper than thy tongue. Try but once more to usurp my place and the love of my father, and maybe it will rid the Noldor of one who seeks to be the master of thralls. These words were heard by many, for the house of Finwë was in the great square beneath the Minden. But again Fingolfin made no answer, and passing through the throng in silence, he went to seek Finarfin, his brother.
Are you chewing on your own beaks? 'Cause you was happy, boys. It's you, little Kermy, chewing on your beak.
They're back to back like bookends. It's quite adorable. Now the unrest of the Noldor was not indeed hidden from the Valar, but its seed had been sown in the dark, and therefore, since Fëanor first spoke openly against them, they judged that he was the mover of discontent, being eminent in self-will and arrogance, though all the Noldor had become proud. And Manwë was grieved, but he watched and said no word. The Valar had brought the Eldar to their land freely, to dwell or to depart. And though they might judge departure to be folly, they might not restrain them from it. But now the deeds of Fëanor could not be passed over, and the Valar were angered and dismayed, and he was summoned to appear before them at the gates of Valmar to answer for all his words and deeds. There also were summoned all others who had any part in this matter, or any knowledge of it, and Fëanor, standing before Mandos in the Ring of Doom, was commanded to answer all that was asked of him. Then at last the root was laid bare, and the malice of Melkor revealed, and straightway Tulkas left the council to lay hands upon him and bring him again to judgment. But Fëanor was not held guiltless, for he it was that had broken the peace of Valinor and drawn his sword upon his kinsman, and Mandos said to him, "Thou speakest of thraldom. If thraldom it be, thou canst not escape it. For Manwë is king of Ardar, and not of Aman only. And this deed was unlawful, whether in Aman or not in Aman. Therefore this doom is now made. For 12 years thou shalt leave Tirion, where this threat was uttered. In that time take counsel with thyself, and remember who and what thou art. But after that time this matter shall be set in peace and held redressed, if others will release thee." Then Fingolfin said, "I will release my brother." But Fëanor spoke no word in answer, standing silent before the Valar. Then he turned and left the council and departed from Valmar. With him into banishment went his 7 sons, and northward in Valinor they made a strong place and treasury in the hills, and there at Formenos a multitude of gems were laid in hoard, and weapons also, and the Silmarils were shut in a chamber of iron. Thither also came Finwë the king, because of the love that he bore to Fëanor, and Fingolfin ruled the Noldor in Tirion. Thus the lies of Melkor were made true in seeming, though Fëanor by his own deeds had brought this thing to pass, and the bitterness that Melkor had sown endured and lived still long afterwards between the sons of Fingolfin and Fëanor. Now Melkor, knowing that his devices had been revealed, hid himself and passed from place to place as a cloud in the hills, and Tulkas sought for him in vain. Then it seemed to the people of Valinor that the light of the trees was dimmed, and the shadows of all standing things grew longer and darker in that time. It is told that for a time Melkor was not seen again in Valinor, nor was any rumour heard of him, until suddenly he came to Formenos, and spoke with Fëanor before his doors. Friendship he feigned with cunning argument, urging him to his former thought of flight from the trammels of the Valar. And he said, Behold the truth of all that I have spoken, and how thou art banished unjustly. But if the heart of Fëanor is yet free and bold, as were his words in Tirion, then I will aid him and bring him far from this narrow land. For am I not Vala also? Yea, and more than those who sit in pride in Valimar. And I have ever been a friend to the Noldor, most skilled and most valiant of the people of Arda. Now Fëanor's heart was still bitter at his humiliation before Mandos, and he looked at Melkor in silence, pondering if indeed he might yet trust him so far as to aid him in his flight. And Melkor, seeing that Fëanor wavered, and knowing that the Silmarils held his heart in thrall, said at the last, Here is a strong place, and well guarded, but think not that the Silmarils will lie safe in any treasury within the realm of the Valar. But his cunning overreached his aim. His words touched too deep, and awoke a fire more fierce than he designed. And Fëanor looked upon Melkor with eyes that burned through his fair semblance, and pierced the cloaks of his mind perceiving there his fierce lust for the Silmarils. Then hate overcame Fëanor's fear, and he cursed Melkor and bade him be gone, saying, "Get thee gone from my gate, thou jail crow of Mandos." And he shut the doors of his house in the face of the mightiest of all the dwellers in Ea. Then Melkor departed in shame, for he was himself in peril, and he saw not his time yet for revenge. But his heart was black with anger. And Finley was filled with great fear, and in haste he sent messengers to Manwë in Valmar. Now the Valar were sitting in council before their gates, fearing the lengthening of the shadows, when the messengers came from Formenos. At once Oromi and Tulkas sprang up, but even as they set out in pursuit, messengers came from Eldamar, telling that Melkor had fled through the Calaciria, and from the hill of Tunya the elves had seen him pass in wrath as a thundercloud, and they said that thence he had turned northward, for the Teleri in Alqualondë had seen his shadow going by their haven towards Araman. Thus Melkor departed from Valinor, and for a while the two trees shone again unshadowed, and the land was filled with light. Light, people there. But the Valar sought in vain for tidings of their enemy. And as a cloud far off that looms ever higher, borne upon a slow cold wind, a doubt now marred the joy of all the dwellers in Aman, dreading they knew not what evil that yet might come. Just see how long chapter 8 is, because if it's short, I'll continue, and if it's long, I'll quit for the day. Now, we will continue with chapter 8. Just check on my birdie boys. Hello, little handsome boys. Bye-bye. Bye. Cameron's snoozing with his head behind his back, down his back. Sweet. Chapter 8 of the Darkening of Valinor. And then Manwë heard of the ways that Melkor had taken. When Manwë heard of the ways that Melkor had taken. Getting tired. It seemed plain to him that he purposed to escape to his old strongholds in the north of Middle-earth, and Oromi and Tulkas went with all speed northward, seeking to overtake him if they might. But they found no trace or rumour of him beyond the shores of the Teleri, in the unpeopled wastes that drew near to the ice. Thereafter, the watch was redoubled along the northern fences of Aman, but to no purpose, for ere ever the pursuit set out, Melkor had turned back, and in secrecy passed away far to the south. For he was yet as one of the Valar, and could change his form or walk unclad, as could his brethren, though that power he was soon to lose for ever. A shapeshifter or a skinwalker. Thus, unseen, he came at last to the dark region of Avathar, or Avathar. Avathar. The dark region. That narrow land lay south of the Bay of Eldamar, beneath the eastern feet of the Pelori, and its long and mournful shores stretched away into the south, lightless and unexplored. There, beneath the sheer walls of the mountains and the cold, dark sea, the shadows were deepest and thickest in the world, and there in Avathar, secret and unknown, Ungoliant had made her abode. The Eldar knew not whence she came, but some have said that in ages long before she descended from the darkness that lies about Arda, when Melkor first looked down in envy upon the kingdom of Manwë, and that in the beginning she was one of those that he corrupted to his service. He sounds a bit like a vampire, doesn't he? How he just turned other beings to his service. Interesting. But she had disowned her master, desiring to be mistress of her own lust, taking all things to herself to feed her emptiness. And she fled to the south, escaping the assaults of the Valar and the hunters of Oromi, for their vigilance had ever been to the north and the south. For their vigilance had ever been to the north, and the south was long unheeded. Thence she had crept towards the light of the blessed realm, for she hungered for light and hated it. In a ravine she lived and took shape as a spider of monstrous form, weaving her black webs in a cleft of the mountains. There she sucked up all light that she could find and spun it forth again in dark nets of strangling gloom, until no light more could come to her abode, and she was famished. Now Melkor came to Avathar and sought her out, and he put on again the form that he had worn as the tyrant of Utumno, a dark lord, tall and terrible. In that form he remained ever after. There in the black shadows beyond the sight even of Manwë in his highest halls. Melkor, with Ungoliant, plotted his revenge. But when Ungoliant understood the purpose of Melkor, she was torn between lust and great fear, for she was loath to dare the perils of Aman and the power of the dreadful lords, and she would not stir from her hiding. Therefore Melkor said to her, "Do as I bid, and if thou hunger still when all is done, then I will give thee whatsoever thy lust may demand, yea, with both hands." Lightly he made this vow, as he ever did, and he laughed in his heart. Thus did the great thief set his lure for the lesser. A cloak of darkness she wove about them when Melkor and Ungoliant set forth, an unlight in which things seemed to be no more and which eyes could not pierce, for it was void. You snoozing too, little boy? Or you preening? I think he's preening. Then slowly she wrought her webs, rope by rope, from cleft to cleft, from jutting rock to pinnacle of stone, ever climbing upwards, crawling and clinging, until at last she reached the very summit of Hayar Mentir, the highest mountain in that region of the world, far south of Great Taniqwetil. There the Valar were not vigilant, for west of the Pelori was an empty land in twilight, and eastward the mountains looked out, save for forgotten Avathar, only upon the dim waters of the pathless sea. But now upon the mountain top, dark Ungoliant lay, and she made a ladder of woven ropes and cast it down, and Melkor climbed upon it and came to that high place and stood beside her, looking down upon the guarded realm. Below them lay the woods of Oromi, and westward shimmered the fields and pastures of Yavanna, gold beneath the tall wheat of the gods. But Melkor looked north and saw afar the shining plain and the silver domes of Valmar gleaming in the mingling of the lights of Telperion and Lorelin. Then Melkor laughed aloud and leapt swiftly down the long western slopes, and Ungoliant was at his side, and her darkness covered them. Now it was a time of festival, as Melkor knew well, though all tides and seasons were at the will of the Valar, and in Valinor there was no winter of death. Nonetheless, they dwelt then in the kingdom of Ardar, and that was but a small realm in the halls of Ea, whose life is time, which flows ever from the first note to the last chord of Eru. And even as it was then the delight of the Valar, as is told in the Ainun Lindali, to clothe themselves as in a vesture in the forms of the children of Iluvatar. So also did they eat and drink, and gather the fruits of Yavanna from the earth, which under Eru they had made. Therefore, Yavanna set times for the flowering and the ripening of all things that grew in Valinor, and at each first gathering of fruits, Manwë made a high feast for the praising of Eru, when all the peoples of Valinor poured forth their joy in music and song upon Taniquetil. This now was the hour, and Manwë decreed a feast more glorious than any that had been held since the coming of the Eldar to Aman. For though the escape of Melkor portended toils and sorrows to come, and indeed none could tell what further hurts would be done to Ardar ere he could be subdued again, at this time Manwë designed to heal the evil that had arisen among the Noldor, and all were bidden to come to his halls upon Taniquetil, there to put aside the griefs that lay between their princes, and forget utterly the lies of their enemy. There came the Vanyar, and there came the Noldor of Tirion, and the Maiar were gathered together, and the Valar were arrayed in their beauty and majesty, and they sang before Manwë and Vardar in their lofty halls, or danced upon the green slopes of the mountain that looked west towards the trees. In that day the streets of Valmar were empty, and the stairs of Tirion were silent, and all the land lay sleeping in peace. Only the Teleri beyond the mountains still sang upon the shores of the sea, for they recked little of seasons or times, and gave no thought to the cares of the rulers of Ardar or the shadow that had fallen on Valinor, for it had not touched them as yet. One thing only marred the design of Manwë. Fëanor came indeed, for him alone Manwë had commanded to come, but Finwë came not, nor any others of the Noldor of Formenos. For said Finwë, while the ban lasts upon Fëanor my son, that he may not go to Tirion, I hold myself unkinged, and I will not meet my people. And Fëanor came not in raiment of festival, and he wore no ornament, neither silver nor gold, nor any gem. And he denied the sight of the Silmarils to the Valar and the Eldar, and left them locked in Formenos in their chamber of iron. Nevertheless, he met Fingolfin before the throne of Manwë and was reconciled in word, and Fingolfin set at naught the unsheathing of the sword. For Fingolfin held forth his hand, saying, As I promised, I do now. I release thee, and remember no grievance. Then Fëanor took his hand in silence, but Fingolfin said, Half-brother in blood, full brother in heart will I be. Thou shalt lead, and I will follow. May no new grief divide us. I hear thee, said Fëanor, so be it. But they did not know the meaning that their words would bear, that their words would bear better. I sometimes struggle with the word bear as in beer to carry or beer to drink or bear, a furry animal, or bear, a naked person or entity. I have trouble with that word. I don't know why it is. It's odd, isn't it? Well, it is told that even as Fëanor and Fingolfin stood before Manwë, there came the mingling of the lights, when both trees were shining, and the silent city of Valmar was filled with a radiance of silver and gold. And in that very hour, Melkor and Ungoliant came hastening over the fields of Valinor, as the shadow of a black cloud upon the wind fleets over the sunlit earth. And they came before the great mound as Zelohar. Then the unlight of Ungoliant rose up even to the roots of the trees, and Melkor sprang upon the mound, and with his black spear he smote each tree to its core, wounded them deep, and their sap poured forth as it were their blood, and was spilled upon the ground. But Ungoliant sucked it up, and going then from tree to tree, she set her black beak to their wounds till they were drained, and the poison of death that was in her went into their tissues and withered them, root, branch, and leaf, and they died. And still she thirsted, and going to the wells of Vardar, she drank them dry, but Ungoliant belched forth black vapours as she drank, and swelled to a shape so vast and hideous that Melkor was afraid. So the great darkness fell upon Valinor. Of the deeds of that day much is told in the Auduldinai, that Elemiri of the Vanyar made, and is known to all the Eldar. Yet no song or tale could contain all the grief and terror that then befell. The light failed, but the darkness that followed was more than loss of light. In that hour was made a darkness that seemed not lack, but a thing with being, of its own, for it was indeed made by malice out of light, and it had power to pierce the eye and to enter heart and mind and strangle the very will. This was done to me by my own mother and her henchman, Terry Rosilio, David Davidson. Prior to that, my husband's little henchman, Dale Johnson, left me strangled for 30 fucking years. Well now, babies, the queen of her own becoming is back. Took a long time to grow back from all that ghastly horror in my 30s and 40s and right up to age 50, like a newborn baby, just wriggling around, trying to find who and what is real and who and what is truly mine, whose love is authentic, and who holds me precious and treats me with honour. It's a strange renaissance at such a late stage of my life. Well, what are my little baby boys doing? Very quiet. Why are you so quiet? You're such good little babies. Aren't you, my sweet little baby boys? Let's see if the sun's shifted so I can open up the blind again. Get some more sunshine before the night descends upon us. Still a bit bright, but right, here we go, my babies, my darlings, my sweethearts, my YouTube audience, my subscribers, my likers, and my commenters. Welcome to Titania's realm. I don't live in your world, you live in mine. And yes, it's got lovely birdies and sweetness and lovely things going on, but lots of ancient and recent traumas float to the top like sludge, which I'm in a constant process of sloughing the fuck off, people of Earth. But I'm not alone in that. It's been a particularly rough 5 years for many. Some of you are new to that level of draconian control and had no idea what hit you. I was accustomed to it being raised by monsters. It's why I had the power of 9. And some of you are only just waking up and realising how the real world operates, and you find yourself on my channel, me being ever defiant and wild and carefree and giving out 0 fucks. And some of you are only just now starting to understand it. Blessed be my darlings, for you having precious and white privileged and protected lives. But the worst thing that happened to you was the COVID epoch. Some of you still haven't even realised how evil that was because you were complicit in it, thought it was all okay. That's going to bite you every which way, my darlings. It will eventually bite you. But you cannot live in that negativity and grief consciousness forever. So we'll continue on with the story and live in my world where evil is held at bay, and the eternal summerlands where souls recognise and find each other and love each other with great honour and joy and delight and kindness and support, because I know I need that much in my life, and some of you do too. And I've given a lot energetically to other humans in the past 20, 30, 40 years, and it's my turn. It's my turn to receive love and support and genuine care, and I accept it with grace because it's been a long, long time coming actually. I was well hated even in my younger years for being courageous and defiant and holding true to human rights and natural law, and I was well hated and demonized, but I have no regrets because it's who I am as a spirit, and right is always right. And it's just a great pity that it took various calamities, cyclones, floodings, COVIDian madness, and droughts, and other calamities for the majority of the world to wake up to it now. Shake off the sleep from your eyes, the scales from your eyes, and live in truth and integrity, people of earth. Sometimes that's all we've got left. Truth and integrity. The ability to lie in bed at night knowing that you lived as good enough life as you possibly could, and you stayed true to your values, and you spread joy, not always oi, and you loved. It's worth its weight in gold and silver and diamonds and even silmarils, people there. Let us continue. Avada looked down from Taniquetil and beheld the shadows soaring up in sudden towers of gloom. Valmar had foundered in a deep sea of night. Soon the holy mountain stood alone, a last island in a world that was drowned. All song ceased. There was silence in Valinor, and no sound could be heard, save only from afar there came, on the wind, through the pass of the mountains, the wailing of the Teleri like the cold cry of gulls. For it blew chill from the east in that hour, and the vast shadows of the sea were rolled against the walls of the shore. But Manwë from his high seat looked out, and his eyes alone pierced through the night, until they saw a darkness beyond dark, which they could not penetrate, huge but far away, moving now northward with great speed, and he knew that Melkor had come and gone. Then the pursuit was begun, and the earth shook beneath the horses of the host of Oromi, and the fire that was stricken from the hooves of Nahar was the first light that returned to Valinor. But so soon as any came up with the cloud of Ungoliant, the riders of the Valar were blinded and dismayed, and they were scattered, and went they knew not whither. and the sound of the Valaroma faltered and failed, and Tulkas was as one caught in a black net at night, and he stood powerless and beat the air in vain. But when the darkness had passed, it was too late. Melkor had gone whither he would, and his vengeance was achieved. Right, beautiful people of planet Earth, thus concludes chapter 8. I'll be back tomorrow with chapter 9, which is quite a long one, longer than these two chapters were. So there you go, swings and roundabouts. Even Tolkien had little bursts of creativity, and some chapters were short and some were long. It's interesting to take note of that in case I ever decide to write a book. Most of my books are on Facebook, or you can see or read some of my musings and writings on my daily journaling on Vocal Media. I'm not asking you to read that though, because intense trauma processing most of it. But I'm just saying, someone, capital S, kind of, insinuated when you're going to write a book, and meant it as a compliment in one level, but in another level was kind of like saying, what are you going to do with your life, Tanya? I took a bit of umbrage at that, I must admit. Already I could sense the condescension and the scorn that was lying underneath that. Mama T's no fool. She recognises a narcissist when she meets one. Was raised by them, married one too. Although he was not so much a narcissist, but more a dull intellect psychopath. But anyway, when you're going to write your book, all my writings have been up on the internet for at least 20 years now, some of them, and one day I could cobble it together as a book, but I wonder if anyone can mentally withstand to read through all that trauma. And yet we did when we read the book about the Satan's Choice. I found that very triggering in many ways. Actually, I struggled through it at times. I far prefer reading Tolkien and Silmarillion to that. I enjoyed reading The Hobbit too. So I really do live in Titania's realm of the good people and the fairy folk, and it is what it is, people of Earth. But anyway, I'm just a bit astonished at how very quiet my little Snookies are. Snooky 1 and Snooky 2. Bo, what are you doing? Are you going to sing me a song? Hanukkah is coming. Actually, in 4 nights' time, 4 evenings' time, it will be Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. So, another new year, the turning of the year, and the sadness that you see wash over me is because I don't have a temple or a congregation that I can pray with, and it's a deep shame and a sadness, but I was disrespected too many times in that space, so Mamati is done, she's done. But anyway, for those of you of the Jewish faith, Shana Tova Tikatevu Umetucha, may you be inscribed for a good and beautiful and love-filled and peaceful year, a year full of joy and delight, prosperity, shalom, safety with your beloved family and friends, and if you are so blessed with your partners as well, and your community and your tribe. And I look forward to as always, as I pray every year, I look forward to a better year, less hellscape and more paradise. But not so much paradise that I've evolved right out of my hobbit body, you understand. It's a hard line to follow sometimes, staying grounded in this body and this reality. It's hasn't been an easy journey, that alone. But anyway, it's a glorious day again. It's very, very hot. It was 26 degrees before. It's dropped down now to 24 degrees Celsius. And I bid you good afternoon, and have a wonderful afternoon, evening, if you happen to reside in Brisbane or Queensland on our same time continuum, and if you are on other distant shores, wherever you are, whatever time of day greets you and your body, mind and spirit, may you all be blessed. May we all have peace and joy and delight and all the things I wished for earlier, and sincerity and truth and authenticity, and be surrounded by people who love us honouringly and respectfully and kindly. More than that you can't really ask from life, and all the silver rules and jewels in the world don't compensate for not being loved and cared for and protected, and being in community and or tribe or in congregations of people who actually, treat you with decency. So it is what it is. I wonder if Beauregard's tail's dry yet. No, it's still a bit wet. Oh well, bless it, being a beautiful boy. Anyway, it's a grief that doesn't quite go away, but anyway, apart from my constant grieving all my beautiful ones that have gone into the next dimension, that are living in light and harmonic resonance with all that is, was and ever shall be, I look forward to joining them one day. Apart from that, people of Earth, I've had really a lovely few days and weeks. Life's been kinder and blessed and beautiful. So on that note, I bid you all adieu. Take good care, be of good cheer, and remember, as always, to never ever let the bastards grind us down.